Look, I know that there is just so much Trump derangement syndrome in the media, but this piece by CNS journalist Stefano Pozzebon I found really interesting about what Venezuela is like 2 months on from the capture of dictator Nicolas Maduro. He writes, it's hard to overstate how different the South American country now feels. There's a new buzz and optimism that, to be frank, I have never seen before. This piece goes on to talk about the time he has spent there covering the chaos in Venezuela over the last decade and writes, the changes happening in Venezuela now are like nothing I have seen before. And the very last line of this piece is quoting a source that says, at least for now, we've got to admit that Trump got this one right. John, can I get your assessment? CNN admitting that Donald Trump got this one right.
Well, that CNN piece is one of the most optimistic things I've read about Venezuela in a really long time. It was especially great to see Chris Wright, our terrific Secretary of Energy, down there meeting with Delcy Rodriguez, now in charge of the Venezuelan government. And so Venezuela was once a rich country. It could be a rich country again. And it looks like Rodriguez is awake to the fact that socialism is idiotic, and they need to get back to a free enterprise economy. I think the real question, though, is what is the position of Venezuela's army? It is the army that keeps unpopular dictators like Chavez and Maduro in power. And I don't know whether the Venezuelan army is ready to stand down and allow real reform or not.
Nick, can I get your assessment and how is this issue being reflected in the polls? I mean, it's been 2 months since Maduro was captured in such an incredible move. But as we know, people tend to move on. What's your assessment of how this is being reflected in the polls?
Well, I think it continues to buoy President Trump, and the American people are very satisfied with the way that President Trump's conducted himself on the international stage. And peace through strength is becoming, the Trump agenda here. Certainly, when you look at Venezuela, but what I think is potentially even more compelling to the American people, the further that this develops, is we're at a stage right now where the number two to Chavez is admitting that socialist policies don't work, and that we need to go back to these market-based principles. But we have domestic American politicians who are continuing to beat the drum for these socialist policies. And, the more that Venezuelan people embrace these economic reforms and we get Venezuela back to being the prosperous leader in South America that it once was, the more that these American and European politicians who are embracing the anti-imperialist Maduro double talk, despite the abject failure in his leadership, the more that those politicians' agendas are going to be exposed.
Looking at some of the Democrat politicians, we saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez speaking at the Munich Security Conference, and she had this to say about Venezuela.
We look at what happened in Venezuela, for example. It is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator. And
John, this was AOC's big moment to shine on the world stage. She accidentally revealed there that she has no idea where Venezuela is. She was also wrong, I would say, in her assessment of Maduro. I mean, he's accused of rigging elections, not cancelling them for one. Can I get your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I don't think AOC understands what happened here. She talked about kidnapping Maduro, which is not what happened. We arrested Maduro,
Correct.
Who is a wanted criminal. He's under indictment in the Southern District of New York. That was not a kidnapping. That was an arrest pursuant to United States law. And apart from her geographical ignorance, I don't think Ocasio-Cortez understands that.